Good afternoon, children. Our topic for today is osmosis and osmotic pressure. To understand this, let us consider a thistle funnel. We have inverted it, filled it with sugar solution and tied a parchment membrane to it, which acts as the semi-permeable membrane. Then we drop this inverted thistle funnel into a container containing water. Now, as the sugar solution has higher concentration and water has lesser concentration, what you see is after some time that water from the outer environment enters into this thistle funnel through the semi-permeable membrane and rises up in height. So, this process is called osmosis. So, what is osmosis? The phenomena of flow of solvent through a semi-permeable membrane from pure solvent to the solution is called osmosis. Osmosis is quite different from diffusion, where you see particles moving from a region of higher concentration to that of lower concentration. So let's just review the differences between osmosis and diffusion. Osmosis takes place through a semi-permeable membrane. In diffusion, no semi-permeable membrane is needed. In osmosis, only the water molecules move from a region of lower concentration to higher, whereas in case of diffusion, solute and solvent, both molecules can move from a region of higher concentration to that of lower concentration. Whereas in osmosis, molecules move from a region of lower concentration to higher. In diffusion, molecules move from a region of higher concentration to lower. Then in osmosis generally occurs in solutions only, whereas diffusion can occur in gases as well as liquids. Osmosis can be stopped or even reversed by applying extra pressure, whereas diffusion cannot be stopped or reversed. Now let us do an experiment where we can see how osmosis takes place. It's demonstration of osmosis. So we start the experiment by first dissolving an egg by placing it in dissolving the outer layer of eggshell by placing it in a solution of vinegar or hydrochloric acid. So hydrochloric acid will dissolve the outermost hard shell, leaving behind the egg with semi-permeable membrane outside it. Now you have to take two such eggs and dissolve their membrane shells, and you'll place one of them in water and other in a concentrated saturated salt solution. Now what happens is there's a difference between the two solutions. Water has lesser concentration than the solution of the egg, whereas salt solution has higher concentration than the solution of the egg. So after some time what you observe is that while this is the normal size of the egg placed in water swells up, whereas the egg placed in salt solution shrinks in size. So the solution here, egg is placed in a hypotonic solution. The solution which has lesser concentration than a given cell is called hypotonic solution. A solution which has higher concentration than that of the cell is called hypertonic solution. So here the egg is placed in a hypertonic solution. And we have another kind of a solution which has the same concentration of that of the cell. Then that solution is called isotonic solution. So in here, when the water goes inside the egg, this process will be called endosmosis because water is moved in from outside, and this process will be called exosmosis. Water has moved out. Solution is called hypotonic, solution is called hypertonic. We have another example of isotonic solution over here. 0.91% solution of sodium chloride has the same concentration and osmotic pressure as that of red blood cells. So such solution is called isotonic solution with red blood cells. Another interesting phenomena you may observe is that when red blood cells are placed in hypotonic solution, water from outside may enter the red blood cells, causing the cells to swell up or even rupture. This process is called hemolysis. In contrast, if you place red blood cells in a higher concentrated solution, the solvent from the red blood cells may move out, resulting in shrinkage of the red blood cells. Then this process is called plasmolysis. Now, coming back to the same Thistle funnel process, what you see is initially when you place the sugar solution in water, the level kept on rising up. But a stage comes when the level is maximum and further does not rise in height. What happens here is that the hydrostatic pressure that has developed by the water column which has formed over here, that balances the pressure of the osmosis. The rise of water because of osmosis cannot now further take place, because whatever pressure it exerts is exactly balanced by the column of water that is built up over here. So this maximum pressure, or the pressure that is at equilibrium, this pressure is called osmotic pressure. So what is osmotic pressure? The equilibrium hydrostatic pressure on the solution due to osmosis of the pure solvent into it is called osmotic pressure. Alternatively, we can find out another definition of osmotic pressure. For that, we will consider the following setup. Here we have taken two compartments which have been joined together here, and there is a semi-permeable membrane placed in between. This part of the vessel is filled with a concentrated solution, salt solution, whereas this one is filled with plain water. We have pistons attached to both the sides. Here the piston exerts a pressure equal to atmospheric pressure. Now, because of osmosis, there is a tendency of the solvent molecules to move through the semi-permeable membrane into the solution, because of which the water may move outwards. Now we will apply some extra pressure pi on this piston, so that this pressure exactly balances the movement of water outside the vessel. So whatever pressure we have applied to exactly balance the movement of water, outward movement of water because of osmosis, that will be called osmotic pressure. So another definition of osmotic pressure is, it may be defined as the minimum pressure which must be applied to a solution to prevent the passage of solvent into it through the semi-permeable membrane. Now how much this pressure is, we can measure it experimentally also. The apparatus that we will use for the measurement of osmotic pressure will be Berkeley and Hartley's method. So in this method, the assembly of the apparatus is as such. We have a bronze solution or a gunmetal vessel in which we have filled up the concentrated solution whose osmotic pressure is to be measured. And in between we have placed a porous pot, which is on the walls of which we have deposited cupric ferrocyanide, which acts as a semi-permeable membrane. And we fill this porous pot with water from this reservoir over here, and in such a way that when the water reaches in this capillary tube to this level, we just close off the reservoir. Now, because of osmosis, water may tend to move from this porous pot into this solution through semi-permeable membrane. This is because of osmosis. And when this happens, the level in the capillary tube may drop. In order to measure the osmotic pressure, what we will do is that we will apply extra pressure on this piston so that the level of water in this capillary tube does not fall. So whatever extra pressure that we apply so as to prevent this fall in water level will be measured by this pressure gauge and will be the osmotic pressure. So this is how we will measure the osmotic pressure of the solution. Now, Van 't Hoff studied in detail the osmotic pressure of solutions, and he found out that the relation between osmotic pressure and concentration of solution is like this: pi is equal to C into R into T. This was given by Van 't Hoff in 1887. So here pi is equal to C into R into T, where C is the molar concentration of solution, R is the gas constant, and T is the temperature. Now at a particular temperature, R and T are constant, so we are left with the equation pi is proportional to C. So we can see that the osmotic pressure depends upon the molar concentration of solution, that is number of solute particles, and not on the nature, so it is a colligative property. Now, as we have established that osmotic pressure is a colligative property, we can once again determine the molar mass of an unknown solute from its osmotic pressure. Again, we will take a given amount of solute in a given amount of solvent, and we will measure its osmotic pressure experimentally. So from the equation, we have pi is equal to CRT, where C is the concentration, that is number of moles per liter of the solution. C is molarity here. The number of moles, now we can place this expression for C in this expression. So instead of C, we use N by V, and we get pi is equal to N by V RT. Taking V to this side, we get pi V is equal to nRT. This equation is called Van 't Hoff equation for dilute solution. Just remember that for ideal gases also we had almost a similar equation, PV is equal to nRT, where P was the ideal pressure. Here pi V is equal to nRT, where pi is the osmotic pressure. So this is the equation for Van 't Hoff equation for dilute solutions. Now number of moles is weight of solute over molar mass of solute. So putting WB upon MB in place of N, we get pi is equal to WB RT upon V MB. Taking MB to this side and pi to this side, we get MB is equal to WB RT upon V into pi. This is our expression for osmotic pressure, by which we can find out the molar mass of an unknown solute. It's a mathematical tool and can be used for solving numericals. Now we have done 4 colligative properties, and we can measure the molar mass of a solute from using these colligative properties, but we get accurate values only if the following conditions are satisfied. Number 1, the solute must be non-volatile. The solution must be dilute, that is, its concentration should not be more than 5%, and the solute should neither undergo dissociation or association in the solution, because the number of particles change if these processes occur.